Sima? David's going to set you in the back. Yeah, I don't want to be there. Okay. All right. Go back there.
So you're not going to be out.
No. Yeah. Well, why don't you sit over here? Over here.
Okay.
Well, then sit here.
Sit right in there.
You're good. Okay, good. We're going to go over here and take. Hi, Jonathan. Yeah.
We know the way San Jose.
Yeah, there's a microphone. Do you want to leave
stand there? My brother's going to stand next to me.
Oh, yeah. And one of us can do that too if you want. Just let us know.
Yeah, okay. So Sima's husband. Sima's husband.
Walk down that aisle.
She's the same. She's actually related. I don't know that. They see. How are you?
That was a Saturday. The next day was Sunday. We had two events. It was Sima. Oh, it's very until Thursday. I started about midday on the office. When I came out of shul on the 6th.
Is this the little girl I guess? Is this the little boy at play? I don't remember growing older. When did she get to be of you? Did he grow to be so tall? Wasn't it yesterday when they were small? Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly flow the days. Seedlings turn overnight to sunflowers, blossoming even as we gaze. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset, swiftly fly the years, one season following another, laden with happiness and tears.
The family at this time, we're going to recite a blessing as we tear our ribbon, as representing how our hearts are broken. Even though it's just a symbol, it still maps on to how we feel emotionally with the loss of our dear Sima. So you can just repeat the words after me. Baruch, Atah, Adonai, Eloheinu, Melech Haolam, Dayan Ha'emet. And that means, blessed are you, Adonai, our God, judge of truth. So we say, Adonai gives and Adonai takes. Blessed be the name of Adonai. You can go ahead and tear your ribbon. You can see it's a little bit free.
In the opening book, in the opening chapters of the Bible, we learned that human beings were created from the dust of the earth, and that God blew into the first human being, Nishmat Chaim, the breath of life. Torah is teaching us that we all live with a paradox. We live with the knowledge that we are part of this earth, our bodies made of the same things as the rest of the universe. And that part of us is divine and something transcendent, something we call our soul, our spirit, our self, what makes us unique. And we gather today to lovingly return Sima Pomerantz's body to the earth from where it came, and also to lift up her spirit and her memory as it makes its final journey to return to the source of life. On behalf of Rabbi Shulman and myself and Eitan, it's been our privilege to be Sima's rabbi. And many of us here knew Sima as a lovely, sweet, elderly lady who always showed up early to services, sat in the back in the same exact place. In fact, I hate to say it, but she was even prone to kicking other people out of her seat if they were sitting in her seat. She'd say, you know, that's my seat. And she would come early to walk up and down the aisles to get her exercise. But you know, Sima was so much more than that. And I want to thank the folks from HEA and our community and others who knew Sima because she taught us the value of showing up, the value of being that stalwart who's always there. And so thank you for coming out today and representing so many people who have fond memories of Sima at Shul. And so today we look forward to really getting a full picture of Sima and learning about her life.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני אלוהי לא אחסר, בהנות אשר ירביצני, על מי מנוחות, ינהלני. נפשי ישובב וישובב, יהנחני במגדי צדק, ינחני במגדי צדק, למען שמו. גם כי אלך בגיא צלמוות, לא יירא, רק אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני. ארוך לפניי, שולחן נגד צורריי, נשענת בשמן ראשי, עושי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי, כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. אדוני רואי לא אחסר, אדוני רואי לא אחסר.
Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want, giving me repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters, to revive my spirit, guiding me on the right path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through a valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Around the Passover Seder, we say the words, Arami Oved Avi, my ancestor was a wandering Aramean. These words come from the Torah in Deuteronomy chapter 26, when the Israelites were commanded to bring their first fruits to the Jerusalem temple once they had settled in the land. And when they offered these fruits to the priest in acknowledgement of God's beneficence, they would recite this specific declaration as the priest prompted them. Repeat after me, he would say, Arami Oved Avi, my ancestor was a wandering Aramean. In other words, this was a moment of recognizing their ancestors were no strangers to immigration or to wandering in search of safety, spirituality, and opportunity. They stood there as we stand here now, remembering the journey of their ancestor. And that journey they took as they themselves stand in this moment of ritual, in a certain way of counting their blessings and recalling the lessons that they learned along the way. As the 20th century biblical commentator Yisrael Balin wrote about this biblical moment in words that could very well have been written by Sima Pomerantz herself. If you're worried and you can't sleep, just count your blessings instead of sheep, and you'll fall asleep counting your blessings. Stuart, Bruce, Gail, Bruce, Zach, Noah, Adlai, and Harlow, family, and friends of Sima. Sima always said, count your blessings. In this case, the pulsating memories, the sustaining influence, the invisible roots and lessons entwined around the very essence of your being. All these cannot be erased by the actuality of death. You can derive comfort not only from the thought of what your mother meant to you, but also from the realization of what you meant to her. You were everything to Sima. Your success as human beings was a profound source of joy to her. How she basked in your reflected glory, your successes, and your wisdom. And the kindness, thoughtfulness, love, and respect you always showed her were amongst the proudest gifts of her life. Sima was born in 1936 in Mexico City, a daughter of Sarah and Julio, who had fled Poland in the 1920s. Julio got out of Europe before the Nazis came into power, but many of his members of his family were not so fortunate and perished in the Shoah. Their family owned a meat factory where sausages and other meats were produced. Little Sima was quiet, calm, positive, and respectful, the third of 4 children. She grew up in Mexico City alongside her siblings, Doba, Jacobo, and Gregorio, and attended a Jewish day school that still thrives today. As Sima got older, she fell in love with dancing and was active in her synagogue, just as she always was. She always had friends, and she held on to the friends that she had, like her lifelong pal, Esther. Sima got acquainted with the love of her life, Harold, while he was visiting from Brooklyn to study medicine in the National Autonomous University Medical School in Mexico City. Harold stayed with Sima's family as they were distantly related. Although Sima and Harold would tell friends often over the years who inquired about how they met that they had connected in a bar or some other whimsical encounter. In fact, the truth is that they fell in love while Harold was visiting her family while he was in Mexico studying to be a physician. He would toss love notes into Sima's room. It was a partnership meant to be. Sima and Harold were married on July 29th, 1956 in Mexico City. While Harold pursued a career as a radiologist, Sima attended secretarial school and worked at a beer factory, which is sort of hard to imagine. Then in October of 1957, the couple moved to the United States, where Harold could advance his training and career in radiology, first in Ohio, then Massachusetts, eventually settling in Denver after Harold served in the Air Force. Sima was always by his side, supporting him as a dedicated wife and also running his business. She took care of the secretarial, billing, and letter writing tasks that needed to be done in the medical office. They gave birth to 4 beloved children, Stuart, Bruce, Gail, and Joel, whom Sima doted on as a proud, protective mama on steroids. Sima would fly about the house, taking care of her kids and the chores, even making them individual dinners according to their personal requests. She was an active parent, certainly, involved in their schools, classrooms, and lives. Her children reflected to me this week how you learn to be warm and calm, have faith and optimism, and how to prioritize family and Jewish community from your mother. Every summer, Sima, Harold, and the kids would return to Mexico City to visit relatives, crying at the airport before they reluctantly left their cousins to return to the States. Sima had many hobbies and a full life. She was active in our synagogue, the Hebrew Educational Alliance, throughout the years, as well as Hadassah, Yiddish clubs, Brandeis Women's Committee, and even modeled for charity fashion shows. Harold and Sima amassed a large and eclectic art collection in their home, featuring Mexican and other international artists. And Sima was always generous to others, contributing tzedakah generously to the American Heart Association, the American Cancer Association, March of Dimes, and other causes. At the age of 60, she went back to work for a salary for the very first time. And she truly enjoyed her work as a bilingual paraprofessional and Fallis and Placebridge Academy schools. Sima was beloved by her students, who would write her thoughtful cards on her birthday and for other occasions. This work helped her to have a sense of purpose and to learn and build independence that she would need to begin life anew after Harold passed away in 2005. Sima was resilient. She survived lung cancer at the age of 76 and lived with Parkinson's. And through it all, she was kind, positive, and funny. Even when the lung cancer came back this winter, she would still smile and proudly tell me in her imperfect, well-meaning English about her children and her fondness for the synagogue. I will always picture Sima walking up and down the aisles of HEA for exercise before services would begin on Saturdays. She was truly a beloved member of our community, and we will miss her dearly. May Sima Pomerantz's memory, teachings, and the light she brought into the lives of others through her words and deeds and dances be a source of enduring blessing to her family and to all who loved her. May she now rest in peace. May God bring comfort to those who mourn. And let us say, Amen. I'd now like to invite up different members of actually Sima's children to share words, beginning with her son, Stuart.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stuart Pomerantz, Sima's oldest son. I live in New York City with my wife Andrea and my son Julian. I'd like to thank you all for coming today, and for those of you who are with us online and couldn't be here in person, thank you for being online with us to bear witness to our commemoration of our mother, Sima Pomerantz. I was reading the New York Times earlier this week, an interview with the director Rob Reiner, and he was talking about some of the films that he thought were the most significant to him. One of them was the film It's a Wonderful Life. He was talking about how that film was about appreciating what you have and how you've touched people. If for those of you who haven't seen it, this is the 1946 Frank Capra film with Jimmy Stewart and Donna Reed. If you haven't seen it, I commend it to you. You won't be sorry. He talks in the interview about how it's one of the most life-affirming films of all, and it's one of my favorite films too, because it's a film about blessings and the blessings of connection. Before she went into hospice, we, Sima's children, would FaceTime her daily, and she would often say in response to the question, "How are you doing?" "I count my blessings every day." And that shows you her positive attitude. She was never a woman of many words, but particularly as she entered the hospice stage and neared the end of her life, conversations with her became minimal, quintessential, and would concentrate into a blessing. She blessed each of her children over and over and over and over again. She would say things like, "I love you with all my heart and all my soul. I wish you the very best and everything perfect for your family for many years. I hope you have a long and wonderful life. You've been wonderful children, all of you. My beautiful son, Stuart, may you have a wonderful life with the best of everything for many, many years." During one of these conversations, I responded, "You've given us so much." And she smiled back at me and said, "I tried my best." And she did. She knew she was nearing the end, but every interaction came down to a perfect, motherly diamond of a blessing. She was sending us off as much as she was preparing for what came next for her. And I tried to give her something of a blessing in return. I told her that we wouldn't let her down, that she'd always be with us here and here, and that we and our children would always be with her no matter what. That we're grateful for the wonderful life she had given us, and that we will live the way she taught us to live, with a love of humor and dance and music and a gratitude for all of the other gifts of life that she treasured. At one point, I was talking to her and I told her that I'm her luckiest child, and does she know why? And she said, "Because I love you?" And I said, "Yes, but why am I the luckiest?" And she said, "Because you were born first." And I responded with a little bit of a correction, and I said, "Well, it's because I got to have you for my mother the longest." I was her first child. I was born in Mexico City, and in a sense, I was the link, the bridge between the place of her childhood with her parents and siblings and friends in the Jewish community of Mexico City, and her future place as a wife and mother, an educator, and member of Denver's Jewish community. She grew up in a male-centric Jewish community. She remained connected with her past in Mexico. She loved her parents, brothers, and their children there. But she grew and exemplified some of her best qualities after she married my father and moved to the US. He ran the family's affairs with sometimes an over-the-top mindset. But she became the voice of equanimity, calmness, the yin to his yang. She had the larger perspective of life. She could take a step back and be more measured, guided by common sense and faith that things would work out. By example, she taught us that part of ourselves that keeps us centered amidst the uncertainties, the crazy vicissitudes of life, the part that anchors us in our trust in ourselves, in our family, and in the universe. She was independent and nurtured her own life, especially after our father died. She loved us intensely, but wanted us to have our own lives. There was never any pressure to chart any life course other than what we aspired to, or to settle back in Denver close to her. She never sought to give up her Denver home to move in with her children or for any other reason, or to be a burden. The lodestar for her ambitions for us was always nothing of hers, but rather the whims or demands of our own separate individual passions and happinesses. She was a strong woman following her passions for classical music, swimming, exercise, movies, and the HEA community. Standing here today as I feel the pain of losing her, I'm comforted because I remember that the intensity of the pain indicates the intensity of the love that she had for us and that we have for her. The pain gauges our blessings in having had her with us, and we will carry her within us always. I was having similar thoughts this week in looking at my son, Julian. We carry our children with us always as they carry us. Those are the bonds of families imbued with love. I will miss how she would be so incredibly impressed with anything I said or did. She would often say things like, "You know everything." I will miss holding her hand, telling her about Julian's smarts and his happiness in school. I'll miss her unflagging belief in me, a confidence she tried to foster in each of her children. I will miss her sweet smile that I would see when I touched her, or smiled at her, or told her something, and how it would break the darkness like a sunrise. On behalf of my entire family, I'd like to thank all of you who connected meaningfully with Sima in any way. I want to particularly thank Susan Blumberg and her husband, Louis Sketchel, who started as friendly neighbors, but who became very close, loving friends who gifted Mom with companionship and assistance for many years. But we thank all of you at HEA and elsewhere who included, supported, loved, and shared life's joys with Sima in any way. Thank you.
Welcome up, Bruce, to share a few words.
I'm Bruce, her second son, second child, and we always go in order. It's not possible to convey how significant my mother was and still is to me. It's not possible to provide you with a full picture of her life. I can give you only a narrow slice of the great mother she was. She was, of course, almost always focused on making sure you were well fed. When I was maybe 3 or so, I recall vividly her lovingly feeding me small pieces of broiled lamb off the bone with her fingers, the fat and grease of the meat increasing the pleasure of this true ambrosia, which to this day has never been replicated. I didn't realize then what I know now. Not every waiter will feed you with his hands, no matter how politely you ask. He's more inclined to use a fork. Mom would make these delicious sandwiches when we would visit family in Mexico that only she could prepare. A hollowed out bolillo filled with aguacate, salt, and sometimes meat from our grandfather's factory. My loving mom. When I was perhaps 4 or 5, I was playing in a field near the backyard of our rented house here in Denver, minding my own business, when a big black dog appeared out of nowhere, frightened me. I instinctively dipped into the ocean of anxiety that I and my family have bathed in for generations and made the unfortunate error of running away. And of course, the dog chased me. I remember feeling so scared, wondering if the dog was going to bite me as I raced as fast as I could back to the house. When suddenly Mom emerged from the sliding glass door, placing herself between me and the hellhound while slapping and pounding a broom against the grass, yelling, get away, repeatedly in her fairly heavily accented English. She saved my life then, not all that long after having given it to me in the first place. My warrior. She was a cute, sweet little person, una miniatura, as she would say, with a great sense of humor and knowing when to play along. We had this game in which we would stand side by side looking at our reflection in the big bathroom mirror, my right arm around her shoulders. I was over 5'11", and she was maybe 5 feet after the latest interval on the rack. And I would ask her, who's taller? The first time she responded, you are. To that I said, let's try this again. Who's taller? I asked a second time. And then she responded, me. And we would laugh. And just about every time I'd visit her at her home thereafter, and often when she would come to my house, I would repeat the game, and she would always supply the desired response, and we would laugh. It was a pleasure to hear her laugh, which was so exuberant that at times she would run out of breath and have to refill her lungs. My funny, entertaining one. At some point, when we were both adults, she once referred to my older brother, Stuart, who at the time was in his 30s, I think, as baby boy. I remarked, if he's a baby boy with that beard since birth, then you are the baby girl. I would remember the photo on the wall in our basement of her as a baby, laying on her stomach, naked, incredibly cute, the size of a peanut. And since then, upon seeing her in person, or talking with her on the phone or on FaceTime, I nearly always greeted and welcomed her with the phrase, hi, baby girl. And she would respond every time with, baby boy. Even when she was lying recently in the ICU bed with low energy, physical pain, her memory declining rapidly to the point of sometimes not recognizing us, suffering the indignities and discomfort of hospitalization, knowing that she was going to die, she would still consistently respond, baby boy, to my baby girl, my reliable, sustaining one. She was small in stature, but gigantic in her expression of love, encouragement, and pride. She was a combination of cheerleader and fortune cookie. You can be the best, she would say. She was the last of her generation, a tie to our beloved family in Mexico, to the Eastern European old world of our maternal grandparents, and to the New World Jewish community they were a part of in Mexico City. She was a great role model for facing life's challenges and for moving forward with optimism and a positive attitude. She had so much energy and so much love for enjoying life, even in her later years, that it seemed like she subscribed to the words of Ulysses by Alfred Lord Tennyson, though much is taken, much abides. And though we are not now that strength which in old days moved earth and heaven, that which we are, we are. One equal temper of heroic hearts, made weak by time and fate, but strong in will to strive, to seek, to find, and not to yield. I admire my mother so much. If I only could live with as much optimism and exuberance as she. For 63 years, Mom loved me and influenced me. How could I feel anything but profound love for and gratitude to her for the love, for the care, for the light, for the encouragement, for the entertainment and laughter, the example she set. My primary message to her, now and always, thank you for everything.
Thank you for your beautiful words, Bruce. We now welcome up Gail to share some words.
everybody. Thank you for being here. For as long as I can remember, I always thought my mother Sima was one of the most beautiful women in the world. When I was young, and until I went to college, I always admired how elegant Mom looked in her beautiful clothes, and especially those she wore to go out with my father to shows, concerts, galas, and other social events. Many people may not know it, but Mom went to beauty school, where she learned how to do her makeup, style her hair, and how to model clothes. In fact, she learned the art of contouring way back when, before we do it now, before it became an art now. Always wanting to help her community when we were kids, Mom modeled custom-made clothes for fundraising events for our elementary school or for Hadassah. My mother grew up at a time when women valued and were proud of looking their best, especially for their spouses. My sweet mother was no exception. I remember many times in high school and in college when she would encourage me to wear a little makeup, wear more form-fitting clothes than when most of my friends' mothers told them the exact opposite. She always did that in her sweet way, telling me that I was beautiful as I was, but that a little lipstick or blush would make me, as she would say, gorgeous. Mom never left the house without makeup and was the only person I knew who wore makeup while swimming, which she did almost every day until she stopped driving. When I asked her why she wore a full face of makeup while swimming, she always said she didn't put her face in the water, and she always wanted to look her best for all the other swimmers and all the people at the rec center. I'm sure you can all picture her with her red hair, her bright pink lipstick and nail polish, which she had done until her final days. She actually was a natural, beautiful brunette, but always claimed she was a redhead inside trying to break out. Many people would tell me that I look like my mother. I always thought that that was one of the greatest compliments I could ever receive. And now that is the one compliment that I proudly share across 3 generations with my daughter Nell. Mom's beauty extended beyond her physical appearance. She was always thankful for her achievements and felt fortunate for all she had and what she was able to live life to the fullest for most of her life. She counted her blessings every day, as you've heard. Mom was so kind to everyone. She was so proud of all of us and always told us that for even the smallest accomplishments, like putting our clothes away. I'm sure my brothers remember her saying, "Hey, I'm so proud of you." I don't remember a day going by when we were kids when she didn't say that to at least one of us. I wasn't at all surprised to learn from speaking with Rabbi Shulman that she did the same to her and other members of the HA family. This kindness extended to my cousins who are watching online now, and even to her many students at Place Bridge Academy. I had a few opportunities to listen in on her teaching remotely during the pandemic and heard her tell her elementary students many times how proud she was of them. Mom was always polite, even during these last few weeks in hospice. Until she was unable to, she always smiled and thanked the wonderful aides who took care of her for everything they did. You see, my mother always wanted others to feel good about themselves. Even while she was feeling weak and unwell, she always managed to ask me how I was and told me I was her beautiful daughter. My mother and I had a deep connection that only mothers and daughters have. Like many families during the pandemic and ever since, when we couldn't see each other in person, Mom and I FaceTimed every day. I looked forward to getting that daily text from her that uncannily came at the end of my workday or when I walked in the house from being outside. I always heard that text in my mind in her sweet Mexican accent. "Are you ready for FaceTime?" I'm almost always initiated the call, and she always answered with, "Hello, my darling." And throughout the conversation, Yes, my dear. I think she used to call many people my dear. Even in the ICU last month, when a nurse brought her food or attended to her, she always smiled and said, "Thank you, my dear." And I'm sure they knew she was sincere when she said it. I could go on to share so many wonderful stories and anecdotes about my amazing, beautiful mamacita. Like, she's the only woman I know of her generation who lied about her height instead of her age. She used to say she was 5 feet tall at her tallest when she barely cleared 4'6". Or as Rabbi Shulman mentioned, she used to make multiple entrees for dinner because, like every Jewish mother, she wanted us to eat well and she didn't want to disappoint us. If anyone would like to hear any more stories from any of us, please let us know. I'm so grateful to my mother for those important lessons in kindness. While my sweet, thoughtful mother may no longer be with us physically, I am comforted knowing her beauty will live on in me and my brothers and all our children, and especially in every "I'm so proud of you" I say.
Beautiful. Now, last but not least, we welcome up Joel, who would probably know, this is not the first time you've had to go last, right?
Well, kind of a window on my life with my talented siblings always going before me with their grace and intellect and talent. They've said everything that I'm feeling and wanted to say. We're also lucky to have known our mom. She was such a precious person. You know, of course, we're all who we are because of the influence of our parents. And as you've heard from so many of us, her enduring lesson was to really appreciate all of the small and large things that are positive in our lives, no matter what is going on. Really appreciate all the small things and all the large things. She had an amazing energy for participating in laughter and joy. The examples that you've heard from my siblings, playing with them and protecting them from animals, everything that she's done. She was a fierce ball of energy of life, and my lasting image of her is always of her dancing. She, at any time any music would start playing anywhere within earshot, no matter where she was, she would stand up and start to dance. Sometimes at inappropriate times, sometimes at appropriate times. But dancing was the common thing, and that really encapsulates the joy that she channeled, and that she wasn't afraid to show, and she wanted to include everyone as a part of. That's my lasting image of her, and that's the lasting image I would recommend that we all have of Sima Pomerantz, of a petite yet forceful dancing dynamo of love.
Thank you, Joel.
In our tradition, the burial of our loved ones is referred to as chesed shel emet, the highest form of kindness we can show another person, because it is a kindness for which we can never be thanked. And it is a mitzvah, a sacred invitation to all of us to participate in the burial of one of our beloved family members. We do this in our tradition ourselves by taking hold of the shovel and placing earth in the grave. It's customary to place at least 3 shovelfuls of earth in the grave, indicating our intention. Some have a custom of using the back of the spade on the first shovelful as a gesture of reluctance. And then it's customary to return the shovel to the mound of earth, allowing the next person to fulfill that mitzvah. In a moment, we're going to invite Sima's family first to fill earth in the grave, and then we invite the community to participate in this mitzvah. While we do that, we will listen to music inspired by Sima's family and in tribute to Sima.
bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame mucho, que tengo miedo perderte otra vez. Quiero tenerte muy cerca, mirarte en tus ojos, verte junto a mí. Piensa que tal vez mañana yo estaré lejos, muy lejos de ti. Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame mucho, que tengo miedo perderte después. Bésame, bésame mucho, como si fuera esta noche la última vez. Bésame mucho, que tengo miedo perderte después. נשמעת כל אחד, ברך את שמך.
Anyone else would like to come up, please go ahead. You could come on either side.
אלוהינו, נשמעת כל אחד, ברך את שמך.
On the Sima's family, presence here, we are with you and support you. And there are many ways that as a community, we can walk this path with you by responding to your prayers and mourners cottage. We bless you in the days and years ahead to find memory, find comfort, and strength in Sima's memory. And every time that you remember her in the words of Mourner's Kaddish. I'm going to invite you to recite Mourner's Kaddish for Sima, and then we will recite a memorial prayer for her. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Menorach Le'olam U'Me'olam. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitahar v'yitomach v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei Kudsha V'Rechu. Tekilah Mikol Birchata V'Shirata. Tushbachata V'Nechemata. Da'anam V'yomah V'Yivru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabba V'Yishmaya. Chaim Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael V'Yivru. Amen. Shalom V'Brahma. Booyah Shalom. Aleinu V'Kol Yisrael.
We'll now continue standing as we're able to for the El Malay Rachamim Memorial Prayer.
תחת כנפי השכינה במעלות קדושים וטהורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת סימה פשע בת יהודה לוי בסולריזו שלך לעולמה בגן עדן תהי מנוחתה ענף על החטאים. אז תראה בסתר כנפיך לעולמים. וצרר בצרר החיים את נשמתה. התבונה יהוא נחלתה. ותנוח בשלום על משכבה. ונאמר אמן.
Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Sima Pomerantz, who is gone to her eternal home. Merciful one, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. Shiva will continue this afternoon with visitation from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Hebrew Educational Alliance, which is at 3600 South Ivanhoe Street, with also today and tomorrow 4 to 6. Both days Minyan will do at about 5 o'clock p.m. We want to thank everyone for your presence, being here, for sharing memories, and there'll be an opportunity to do that, perhaps hear from some of the grandchildren as well tonight at Shiva. Now we are going to symbolically escort the family onto the next stage of mourning. And so we invite all those who are not part of the immediate family to join us in making 2 lines towards the cars, maybe on the flat part so that no one takes a tumble here today as we show up